I have a question about falling into a person. I work professionally. I am in constant contact with my boss. I often lose my presence with him. I feel confused and fear of leaving the person because then I'm terrified at work that I will be released. Can you explain why, when there is lightness in me, people out of mind cannot understand me? Where did you get the strength to remain conscious? Sometimes people who are struck in the mind are so cruel, stuck in the mind are so cruel and do everything to make you feel good. I think you mean bad. The fear that overwhelms me makes me give up. Actually, what begins to happen is it begins to take over by itself. So at first it feels like you practice the I am presence, or you practice this, or you're deconstructing yourself. And then it's like it begins to take over and do its own thing. Like, you know how like when you're cycling on a bike at first, when you first get onto the bike, you pedal and pedal and pedal, and then your momentum just means the bike goes by itself, and you don't have to pedal anymore for 10 or 20 seconds, then you have to pedal again. But it's kind of like that, like as you get into the subject. So it's sort of, at first it feels like you're deconstructing yourself and that you're staying present, and then the energy just takes over. But this is a struggle that I still have, is dealing with people, relationships. So relating with people is hard. It's not an easy thing. And I feel like I pick up people's energies as well. I can't guarantee that's what's happening, and I like to stay humble and not be like, I'm picking up your energy, but I feel like I can feel other people's energies as well. And so I always just am trying to acknowledge what my body's saying. So if somebody comes in and they're super aggressive, or they've got angry energy, they might be coming across as polite. I just feel that in my body, and I feel and just recognize super quickly. It just happens. It just is recognized. This person is making me feel afraid. What has happened to me in the past, even since my awakening, is that I get talked out of my feelings, and not out of. I think it's good to be talked out of your projections, but your feelings are different things, and it never goes well when I'm talked out of my feelings. So say, even if I'm working with someone, I might say to them, I get the sense that you're having a lot of anger towards me or something, or I feel like you've got a lot of anger towards me or something, or I feel like you're speaking to me from a lot of anger. And then they deny it, and they say, no, that's your projection. That's not true. I'm not angry. It must be you that's angry. And because of the way that I've been conditioned in spirituality, is always to question yourself, then I'm like, okay, well, it's my projection. So something in my body is responding with anger, or there's a projection of anger, or maybe it's dogs, or maybe it's from a different room. But I don't try to push it on them, and there's a trust that they know what they're feeling. And from being a speaker now and working with people, and just from interacting with people, is that the lesson for me is learning to trust my feelings a lot more. Now, feelings are different from thoughts. The seeking energy tends to be a seeking to run away from something. So seeking to run away or get validation from something in time, whereas your feeling is like what your body is saying. Now, I'm not always right, so it might be the case that the other person isn't feeling angry, but by them saying I'm not feeling angry, like I'm now learning not to take what the other person thinks about themselves as necessarily the truth, because a lot of the time people don't know what they feel. So even if they feel angry on their mind level, they're not telling themselves that. They're telling themselves another story, and that story is what they're perceiving. Their feelings are cut off, and their feelings are They're just in this head level. So in their mind story, they might be telling themselves that she doesn't understand me, or that she's being really rude. And then underneath that, they're feeling very angry. Whereas my attention is a lot more in my body, so it's a lot more what my feelings are, where my feelings are. So what I find that I'm learning is to trust my feelings a lot more, and just know that other humans, they've got this whole thing going on, their whole world going on, and they're not trying to be bad, or they're not trying to do anything bad, but they've got their whole world going on. And the best thing that you can do is you can acknowledge what you want in that situation. So if you feel they're being angry, if you feel they're being aggressive, just acknowledge that, and just acknowledge, okay, so what do I want now? And then what you might acknowledge is that you want them to stop being angry with you, which is totally valid, or you want to stop being in that anger. So then you can then move away from them. You can then notice that, and rather than trying to express or convince them that they're angry or that you haven't done anything wrong, you just acknowledge, I don't want to be in their anger, and you move away from that anger. But this is something that's super hard. Like, I don't think anybody has ever fully worked out how to communicate best with humans. We're so complicated, and everybody has their own perspective and their own feelings and their own way of seeing things. So it's like you just deal with it moment to moment, and you understand what you want and what your body's feeling, and you say, okay, I feel like they're feeling like that, but you ultimately can't know. So you just do your best with it, and just notice thoughts about wanting it to always be right, or wanting to be a perfectionist about it and to know what they feel and know what you feel and feel like you can work it all out, and that these things can't always be worked out, and that humans are really, really complicated animals, and that if that makes you feel hopeless or disastrous or any of those big feelings, notice that inside your body. Notice when you're feeling crushed by the complications it is to be in a human relationship, and so notice that and let it go and open up again to that communication. But I used to have this nice image that after awakening, relationships would be super easy. I kind of think that it's relationships that have kind of created the separate self. Like, it's relating with people that's created the separate self. If we didn't have to relate with other people, then the separate self would have never been created. Like, it formed out of relationships. Relationship was the first thing. If you think back to Adam and Eve, that they kind of, the story of these two, this man and this woman, and then eating the apple of knowledge and then being aware of their nakedness. It's like, in order to be aware and ashamed of your nakedness, you have to project another person, or you have to have another person there. So I kind of feel like a whole problem came from relationships, and that, like, seeing that there is nobody in relationship is a great freedom, and that's the freedom, remembering presence, remembering there isn't division. But on the human level, we're always going to have to deal in relationships, and so life is creating this thing where it's like remembering this flowing that you are all one, and then trying to relate together, and that's always going to be complicated, but doing it from this more open space. And I feel like as this message spreads more and more in humanity, there will be these openings of humans, but it's still going to be a challenge communicating, because obviously all of us have our own perspective, our own unique particular perspective, and we're all so different. And I think actually the acceptance of that, and the acceptance of the uniqueness and the difference and the complications of what it is to communicate, will be actually really relaxing, rather than this ignorant belief in humanity that we can communicate and we will communicate, and that everyone will understand us and we'll understand them, and that we should have peace and it should always be peaceful and we shouldn't argue. And getting over that, I think, will actually be really good in the human world. Like, realizing that communication is difficult, and that all of us have to have compassion for each other, and in understanding we're all programmed so different, such different chemicals and genetics. So thanks for that question.